Everybody, welcome to the first edition of the 2023 Waiver Wire Selection Podcast. I'm Dr. Marco Nunez with Landon Buford. You guys are welcome to follow me on Instagram at Marco A. Nunez, Marco A. Nunez ATC. I apologize for that, for any recent injury updates. Landon, welcome again.
Hey, man, I'm glad to be back doing this with you for another year, man. Appreciate you allowing me to do this with you. And I'm Landon Buford. I am currently a freelance journalist. Most of my stuff right now you can find at landonbuford.com. But yeah, we're going to be doing this for the NBA and NFL, and this is just another NFL edition right now. So
perfect. And like we normally do, we're going to go ahead and go through, review all the injuries, kind of give you what the approximate timeline. One of the biggest things, the advantage that I've had being able to work at the professional level with the Lakers is that some of the lingo that you guys kind of hear out there that some of the coaches put out maybe a little misleading, so to speak. Every player, especially I call it the Bill Belichick effect, where he pretty much puts every player unquestionable, whether they're going to play or not, type of thing. So I'm here to kind of help you decipher what that means. Should you go grab somebody right away? Should you be concerned, or should you just kind of wait and see? And it looks like everything's going to be fine and dandy. For prime example, this past weekend, Jerry Jeudy, they had him as questionable this whole entire time, but with the second-degree hamstring, there's no way he was going to be able to come back in 7 days. I mean, that's almost close to impossible, and he didn't. And then you have other players that look. They had the question of Greg Kittle, but he was looking very positive on the playing field. He had been practicing, stuff like that, so that was a very likelihood that he was going to play type of thing. So, with further ado, we're going to get started. Kick off the first week of the injury updates, waiver wire selection for the 2023 season, and of course, we got to start with the big game out there right now that happened on Monday Night Football. I really feel bad for this guy. He was supposed to go to New York, take him to the promised land. Basically, there was so much hype about it, and the worst part that I feel about that, and I don't want to make it sound bad. It's some of the memes about some of his highlights. I don't know if you've seen on Instagram. I feel really bad. They've done a highlight reel of him already, and it's just kind of coming out, which I think it's a little too soon.
I think it's a little I think that was a little disrespectful, but
exactly. I agree. But we're talking about Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback for the New York Jets. If you guys don't know by now, today on Tuesday, after they've done the MRI, it has been officially reported that he does have a tear to his Achilles tendon, which means he's going to be out for the rest of the year. Usually a tear from a surgical procedure like that, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks for you to come back to be somewhat active. Does not mean that you're coming back and be able to perform yet. He's an older player too. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's 38, Landon?
I think so. Let me go look and give you the exact, but I think he's 38.
He's up there. He's up in the late 30s.
39.
Yeah, 39. So if he comes back, we're looking at a 4-year-old.
41, yeah.
Yeah. Tom Brady played up to what? He was about 41, I think, 41, 42, but I don't think he had any major injuries like this to the very end. So what do you think, Landon? I guess my understanding he has one more year in it, right? So he probably has to sit down and decide, does he want to try to come back and finish off the year playing? Or, one of the biggest things I think a lot of athletes get frustrated with, from my understanding, is that they don't want an injury to dictate whether they retire or not. So this is where Rodgers is at right now. He has to decide, is this injury going to dictate, hey, I'm going to hang it up because of this, or he's going to try to come back? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I know the competitive nature would have you go ahead and rehab. Normally, in your early 30s, 20s, and then you're back on the field within a year and a half or whatever it is, right? But we're talking about Rodgers, that's a 39-year-old quarterback. It's going to be at least, like I said, 40, 41 by the time he comes back, right? Because how long is this? Is it a year? Even with the new technology, is it 10 months? What is it specifically, right?
So 4 to 6 weeks for you to kind of be more active. Doesn't mean that you're what's called return to performance playing. So you're probably looking more at a 6 to 9 month process for him to be able to return to actually start playing. So he's got plenty of time to be able to do that. He should be able to be back for training camp. Now, one of the positive things for him is that he is no longer, and I was reading about this, he's no longer a running quarterback. He doesn't run like he used to back in the day. He's not a running back. He's not a receiver. The second thing the positive thing that's going for him is that the Achilles that he tore is on his left leg, meaning as a quarterback, he's right-handed, so he pushes off his right leg. So that's his non-weight bearing. So there's a few things that are kind of going for him in his favor, but the biggest thing that's going against him in his favor is obviously his age.
Right. So with that being said, I think that, it's really up to him. I would like to see him come back, finish what he, attempt to finish what he started in New York. Obviously, they gotta, they can't have sleek field, football fields because I mean, if you've seen, a couple of comments on Twitter, somebody said that predicted it with 2 hours before it happened that he was going to actually tear his Achilles on that with that slick
Sure.
with the turf. It was raining over the weekend, right? So yeah, like I don't wish that on anybody. I mean, obviously we know a number of athletes that have had that injury. Obviously, you work with the most notable with that injury. So I mean, he had it twice during your tender in Los Angeles. So I mean, yeah, I would like to see him come back. Obviously, we saw Cole come back. I mean, it's arguably to say that he wasn't the same since the back-to-back Achilles injury. And you know that more than I, better than I do, right? Because you were there when that, when it happened. But yeah, I would like to see Rodgers finish his career on his own terms instead of letting an injury hurt him and push him out of the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I was going to come back next year and kind of finish off on, like I said, on his own terms. I think it's possible. The question is he still going to be the same Rodgers? Now, one advantage thing that I've seen Rodgers when he does play, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Dan Marino, where he's more arm based, where he kind of slings it type of thing with his arm, versus kind of having to resort on his legs and full upper body type of thing. So that's another plus for him type of thing. So he's going to obviously have to have surgery, start the rehab process, and then kind of go from there. So we have to kind of keep an eye on him, see how he progresses through the summer, through February, March. Hopefully, knock on wood, he doesn't have any setbacks, any issues, and it's a pretty much smooth rehab process for him to be able to return. Now, we're going to stay on the same note as far as Achilles tendon ruptures, and we're going to go right to J.K. Dobbins, running back for the Baltimore Ravens.
Baltimore Ravens.
Yep, he just recently came back, I believe, from an ACL injury about a year ago, type of thing, and this happened now. The issue with him, obviously, is that he's had two major injuries within the last 3-year span. 2, he's a running back. He needs that change direction, that stop and go type of thing. He needs to push off that leg. So that's another bigger issue with him compared to, like I mentioned, with Aaron Rodgers, that he's a quarterback. He's no longer a mobile quarterback. He's more kind of stand still. He's more of a passing quarterback type of thing. So I see, but J.K. Dobbins is a lot younger type of thing. Now, the question was, I think from my understanding, is he was supposed to try to get a contract extension this year, and he decided to hold out because he was going to kind of take the same his partner Lamar Jackson kind of took, and unfortunately this kind of bit him in the behind, so to speak. So the question is, which team is going to take a chance on him? How much money is going to be able to get returning from this injury?
Me personally, I mean, the running back this position right now is fighting for their lives, literally. It's when it comes to that, obviously, if they're healthy, they can, they've been running them into the ground. I mean, they have at least 5 years plus the franchise tags and things of that nature. So really, I mean, if these guys get injured, they might not even hit the open market within the 5 years that they entered the league, right? So they got to figure out a way to limit themselves as much as possible to injuries. So, I mean, let's say he gets to the open market, he might get, it's going to be a more favorable deal for the team that he signs with, not himself. Because you can see that, with several other running backs that were, this year. You got what's my man in Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis. They're asking for the moon for him if he can go find his own deal. They want at least a first round and a fourth round pick coming back for his services for any team that they do a trade potential trade move with. So the running back position right now is not as strong as it was 10, 15 years ago.
Correct. I agree with you 100%. And, doing fantasy football this year, that's the same thing that they've talked about, that it's become more of a wide receiver dominant league, where about 7-8 years ago, it was more of a running back dominant league. You had a bunch of running backs that were kind of workhorses, as they put them to back then. Nowadays, most teams are
running back by committee. Yeah,
exactly, a committee type of thing. So it's one of these, why am I going to pay one guy a bunch of money and risk the chance of him getting hurt and then he's done? Let me just pay three good solid running backs even the money out among them. And if one gets hurt, at least I still have two other ones, type of thing. And if J.K. Dobbins does return, which I expect him to return, like you mentioned, it's going to be more of a team favor type of thing. And then I expect him having more of an incentive program type of thing. He's not going to get up front. He's not going to get a signing. He'll get a signing bonus, but it's going to be like a crazy amount of signing bonus. I think it's going to be more, at least for the first year, more incentive-based kind of contract, and see how he does and be able to return. But I do see him returning. The question is, when he does return, is he going to be solid that first year, or is he going to at least another year in the league? So not until 2025 where we're actually going to see the true J.K. Dobbins that we were hoping to see, type of thing. So that's going to be something for us to wait and see. So,
how was his injury differ from Rodgers?
It's not. It's the same injury. It's the same side type of thing. It's the only issues or the difference is top type of positions, who they are, and the age. So that's kind of what makes them, differentiates them type of thing. One, you have a guy that's a lot older, right? So his rehab's going to be a little more difficult to come back. Two, but at the same time, like I said, two, he's more of a passing quarterback. He doesn't run anymore. He doesn't do anything. He's more stabilized. And then three, it's his pushing off leg. So it's his left leg for Rodgers. So when he pushes off, he's going to push off of his right leg. His left one is just more of a deceleration kind of plan and stabilized type of thing, which is nice. For J.K. Dobbins, on the other hand, he's a running back. He needs to push off that ankle, that leg. He needs to be able to decelerate, accelerate, change direction, everything. So he needs to be able to be completely functional type of thing. It's almost a prime example. If you have a running back and a quarterback that have an ankle sprain, you can tape a quarterback's ankle sprain, right? Tape it up, give them. They're not moving. They're not going to be very mobile because they don't require to be mobile. Where a running back, it's a little difficult because they need to be mobile. They need to move, I think, right? Patrick Mahomes, what happened last year? Remember when he sprained the ankle? He was able to play. He was kind of functional, but he didn't really have to.
He wasn't himself, yeah.
Right. He wasn't himself, so he was limited. As long as it's one to say, run if you need to. Otherwise, don't run. Stay in the pocket. We got to protect you. Use your arm and throw type thing. A running back can't really tell him that because a running back needs to run. They need to move type of thing, right? And that's kind of like the limiting factor for J.K. where it's in favor of Rodgers. But again, his age is the one that's kind of holding Rodgers back. So we'll see what happens on that part. So, all right. We're going to move on to a player for the Los Angeles Raiders, Jacoby Myers. He had a great game. I believe he caught 2 passes from Jimmy G. So he's going to definitely be one that a lot of people are either going to be trying to grab in the waiver wire if he's not already gone. Now, he's sustained a concussion, so he's going to go into what's called the NFL concussion protocol. Same thing would happen with Tua, and I think this we talked about last
Stafford
year
as well.
Which one?
Matthew Stafford last year as well had concussion issues.
Exactly. And I think what the issues that happen with Tua are going to be setting the new standard from here on out, at least for another year or 2 years until people start kind of slowly forgetting about it type of thing. Where Tua, hey, we're good, go right back the very next day type of thing. So I think everybody's going to treat concussions more conservatively. Usually a mild concussion, it will take it by 7 to 10 days. Most players will come back from it and play the very next day. So it's a matter of waiting and see what happens with them. What I have to do is kind of follow his progression to return to practice, see how he does, if he's limited. If, let's say they play Sunday, if he is returned to a full practice by Friday, that's a good sign. But if he's still limited or he's on the side with the training staff, just kind of doing sprints or anything like that sort, Friday, that's not a good sign. That tells me that he's most likely not going to be able to play because all you do is you have Saturday, which is kind of a walk, and there's not enough of exertion and movement around to try to see if he replicates any type of symptoms type of thing. So let's wait for the week, see how he does on Friday. If he's back to normal on Friday, part-time no restrictions, that's a great positive sign. But if he's limited or he's on the side doing sprints with the training staff, that's not a good sign. And I wouldn't expect him to be able to play this weekend if that is the fact.
You mentioned Austin Ekeler prior to us getting on to turning on the recording. He on Monday is dealing with the ankle injury, according to The Athletic. Just thoughts on that. I didn't actually see the game. I know normally that you're in LA on the weekends when you're not traveling. Did you get a chance to actually see that up close, or not, at least on television?
Yeah, unfortunately, I did not watch the game, so I wasn't able to see the specific injury. Now, the one thing about this is that Chargers have not disclosed the type of ankle sprain. So usually you have 3 degrees of ankle sprain. So you have a first, second, and third degree. And then you also determine the injury or the ligament or the structure that's damaged or affected during the ankle sprain, whether it's a high ankle sprain or just your typical ankle sprain. So yet to disclose anything of that sort. I imagine what they're doing is they should have probably done an MRI yesterday. By now they should already have the results and kind of be able to hopefully this allows to kind of see what's going on in that part. If we're looking at a mild ankle sprain, your typical mild ankle sprain usually takes about 7 to 10 days for a player to return. So if that's the case, there's a very, very good chance that he should be able to play come Sunday. Or if not, he should be back for the following. He may miss one game for week 3. Now, if it's a second-degree ankle sprain, that usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks. So now we're looking at him probably missing anywhere between 2 to 3 more weeks. So I expect him probably return not until maybe the earliest week 3, if not week 4. So it's just a matter of waiting and seeing for the report, see what the Los Angeles Chargers out there and disclose the type of injury or the degree or the severity of the ankle sprain is what we need to find out.
I think there was one more running back that we mentioned.
We mentioned Evan Hall, running back for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, they've just categorized him as a knee issue. They haven't said same thing. They haven't said what it is, whether it's an ACL sprain, whether it's an MCL sprain, whether it's a meniscus or anything of that sort. But one of the big issues is, like you mentioned a few minutes ago, is that Jonathan Taylor is out for the next 3 more weeks. So you have Deion Jackson. That's probably the only other running back for them. So if you don't have Deion Jackson's available, he might be a possible waiver wire pickup for you because now it's that committee that they had or they were starting with is starting to diminish, type of thing. So I don't expect, and I'd be surprised if the Colts go out and get anybody else. I mean, there is Kareem Hunt there still available. I think a couple of teams are talking to him, and then Leonard Fournette is also out there as a free agent. There's some teams kind of talking to him as well. But we'll see. I mean, they have Jonathan Taylor. They're not going to spend extra money, so we'll see what they do. Personally, I would love to see Jonathan Taylor back, or I would love to see the Indianapolis Colts get a solid running back because I do have Anthony Richardson as my starting quarterback in one of my leagues. And if they have a Jonathan Taylor back there, that would free up a lot of movement and passing for Anthony Richardson. So that's just a little bit of a selfish note on my part right there.
Speaking of him, you got to watch it because he's not sliding when he's out in the open field. He got knocked out. I think they had to check him for concussion protocol on that last drive that, obviously if he was in there, it would have been given him an opportunity to actually win that game. So, because they were down on the 5 or 6 yard line at that particular time. I caught the tail end of that.
Yeah, correct.
I was going to also ask, was there any more running backs that you had specifically that you wanted to talk about? Any players before we start hopping around?
We got Aaron Rodgers. Not Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry. Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
A former teammate, Aaron Rodgers, the running back for the Green Bay Packers, what they refer to as a hamstring injury, a hamstring strain. Again, there's different groups of hamstring strains. You have first, second, third degree. And even within the first degree of hamstring strain, it varies. Now, one of the huge positive signs I think that I read out there, that Aaron Rodgers was able to jog off the field, even though he sustained the hamstring strain, which is a good sign that you're able to jog and able to move compared to Jared Jeudy, where when he had the hamstring strain, he had to be actually carted off the field. He wasn't able to even walk type of thing. So that kind of indicated with like a degree. So the fact that Aaron Jones was able to jog off the field is a huge positive sign on that part. So I imagine he probably has a little mild hamstring strain. Again, mild hamstring strains can take anywhere between 7 to 10 days to return to performance. So we're kind of he's probably what true questionable. We'll see how he progresses, but there is a very good small chance that he could potentially play, or they may just kind of, err on cautiousness and use up AJ Dillon because they have a solid running back at AJ Dillon and save Aaron Jones for week 3 and make sure he has time to recover, rehab, and be able to come back without them risking him aggravating the hamstring, which then, as we've seen with Cooper Kupp, he may be out for more, 6 weeks after that. So there's no chance they may risk. So it's going to be a matter of waiting and seeing. Like I said, they have a solid running back with AJ Dillon, so there's probably no rush to try to get Aaron Jones back.
What about? Okay, let me ask you this. This is kind of off subject, but you've been in that position. Do you think that the Bengals brought what's my man's name? The quarterback back earlier than they should have potentially?
No, because I think Joe Burrow
Joe Burrow, sorry.
he sustained a calf strain I think it was like the second day of training camp. It was like early in August. It was like the very first week of August. It was like it had to be. I remember it was either the second or third day of training camp. So usually a calf strain can take anywhere from if it's a mild calf strain, it takes anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to be able to kind of return. So he was well within that window to kind of return type of thing. Now, whether he had any issues, whether he had any tightness, whether he still kind of felt a little discomfort, I don't know that. We don't know that. That's something between the player and the team and stuff like that on that part. I imagine a franchise quarterback that you just paid a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you risk him back? Sooner. It's you're gonna be super conservative type of thing. Plus, it's only game one. You have the whole season type of thing. So I'd be surprised if they did bring him earlier or if he had any issues. I imagine they probably they did the due diligence and he was probably ready to go. I think one of the things I think I read before the game, because I have Jamar Chase on my lineup of football, is I think I was reading a comment that for some reason the Cincinnati Bengals have always had issues against the Cleveland Browns. I don't know why. Yeah. It's just the Cleveland Browns. So I think it wasn't a surprise. It was a little bit of a surprise, but not too much of a surprise. People that the Bengals struggled against them because they have a history of struggling against the Cleveland Browns.
I'm gonna go back to the Rams real quick. Cooper Kupp, right? It's got a hamstring injury, right? Obviously they don't specify exactly what it is, because then we can talk to individuals like yourself that know the lingo, right? They have him on the injury reserve for now. Roughly, how long do you think it would take for that to heal? And the fact that they put it on injury reserve, if you had to take an educated guess, what does that mean?
So once they're on injury reserve, they're basically 4 weeks automatically. So they cannot participate. They cannot play for 4 weeks. So he's out. The earliest he can play is week 5. So he's out for 1 through 4 period type of thing. What I found very, very interesting, and this is something I think what I was referring to when we opened up the podcast, is that when I was listening to the conversation with Sean McVay, and he mentioned that I think he said, quote, Cooper Kupp, that's quote, he was day-to-day. There's no way he was day-to-day. Day-to-day means Cooper Kupp felt really good. We'll see how I feel tomorrow. The fact that you had a setback, you're feeling good. There's no way you do it day-to-day. So once he said that comment of day-to-day, I knew that he was BSing everybody, and they weren't sure what they were going to do with them. So there's the lingo. They're trying to kind of stay within a gray area. They didn't want to disclose anything, but they don't want to be negative or positive one way or the other. Now, keep in mind, last year was the same thing with Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen had a hamstring injury on a Sunday. Chargers were going to play Thursday. I think the coach is like, yeah, he looks pretty good. There's a 50-50 chance that he's going to play. I'm like, and I think I predict there's no way he's going to chance, even if it's a mild hamstring strain, about 7 to 10 days. There's no way he was going to play. He tried to come back, had a setback, and when he was out, I don't think he returned to about week 8. I think from what I remember, week 8 or week 9. So my educated guess is that I expect Cooper Kupp to be out probably a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks. I would expect him to return to maybe possibly week 7 or week 8. The earliest, week 6, if everything goes according to plan. Because even if he's cleared by week 4 to start practicing, you still got to slowly ramp him up and progress him. So I don't see him playing week 5, maybe week 6, if everything goes according to plan and it's all perfect type of thing. But the one thing that's kind of surprising me, it's kind of very interesting, is the fact that he left to go see a specialist. So this tells me that it's more than just your typical setback. I have a feeling something's going on in that area. I'm hoping that he doesn't require surgery, but the fact that he had to leave the Rams tells me that either he wasn't comfortable with what was going on there and he has to go see somebody beyond because he thinks that this is more than what it is. It's a little suspicious as far as what's going on type of thing. So hopefully I'm wrong and I'm just speculating here, and hopefully he comes back and he's fine type of thing. But how do they say this? It sounds a little fishy here as far as on that part. So like I said, if he's out for the rest of the year, I would not be surprised. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go to my team, and these 2 losses on the offensive line, I feel helped the Rams in the second half get to Geno, especially when Aaron Donald, you could hear him on the mic and like he's seen a ghost.
I remember that.
when he came and sacked him. But Charles Cross is considered week to week with turf toe. Let's start off with him. He's an offensive tackle. I think he was drafted in the first round. I forget what school we got him out of, but like he was, or second round over the last couple years. Thoughts on the turf toe kind of situation?
Turf toe is when you sprain the lower ligament of your big toe, your great toe type of thing, right? Your big toe. Now, one thing that you got to consider is that us humans, when we run, when we move, when we pivot, a portion of our weight gets shifted to that big toe. Okay, as an offensive lineman, when you step back and you're going to gather yourself, always what's called a little bit of a dorsiflexion, and you're putting a lot of weight on that toe. A turf toe injury, it's not considered a major injury, but it's a very nagging, uncomfortable injury. It's not like a sharp, it doesn't feel like anything like severe pain, like I just got shot or got stabbed, but it's just there and it lingers. And what it does, it inhibits your movement type of thing, and it inhibits how much weight you put on it. So if you're a lineman and you're backing up and you see a D line coming at you, and you can't put that full weight and kind of lock yourself down to be able to take the defensive lineman coming at you, it's going to hurt you, and that defensive lineman is going to go right by you type of thing. So it's more of a debilitating injury or chronic issue with the turf toe. Same thing when it happens with wide receivers, because they have to turn, pivot, and change direction. It bugs them. It irritates. It's almost like the equivalent of what I tell for a baseball pitcher. A baseball pitcher, if you get a blister in your thumb, most people are like, I just put a Band-Aid and I'm good. For a baseball pitcher, if they get a blister in the thumb, it's over. It's done for them. The way they throw and they throw the ball. And when you think of a blister, you don't think of a blister as a big injury, right?
Right.
It's a blister. But for them, that top for a pitcher, that's it. They're
it's
done.
Everything. Yeah.
And it's the same thing as turf toe for an offensive lineman, a running back, or a wide receiver. It's a small issue, but it's a very debilitating, and it throws them off completely.
Okay, we're gonna stay with the Seahawks. Abraham Lucas is dealing with a patella injury. Yep. He's questionable though.
Yeah.
But hasn't shown any damage and is dealing with soreness in the patella tendon, according to the Seattle Times.
Sure. So he probably has what's called patella tendonitis, also known as jumper's knee. So this is very common in basketball players and volleyball players, patella tendonitis type of thing. Same thing. It's all most likely they did an MRI. There's no micro tears in there, no tears in there that area. But again, it's the same thing as a turf toe. It's very debilitating. It's very uncomfortable when you try to move, when you try to. And one of the issues with patella tendonitis is that majority of the pain or discomfort you have is if you're standing up straight and you bend your knee about 10 to 15 degrees, right? Almost like when you're going to start doing a squat, but you stop, you just kind of go down. That's where you feel majority of the pain. Now, if you think about it, offensive linemen are always, right? When they get in that position right before the ball gets high, they kind of squat down a little bit and then stay in that position. So all that force is going to the patella tendon, and he probably has discomfort. So bottom line, what I probably suspect is that he can't even get into his starting position without having discomfort or pain. And if you can't even get into your starting position, and as an offensive lineman, you don't want to be upright. Otherwise, the D line is going to come from underneath you and just push you up. So again, that's more of a debilitating movement injury for him. That if he can't even get in his position, he's not going to be functional. It's going to be kind of quote unquote useless out there type of thing. So yeah, you just got to kind of manage it and get that under control.
Okay, I don't really see any more significant injuries in regards to. I mean, obviously there's some on here, but there's not names popping out like a Cooper Kupp, which we already spoke about. Let me just go through here one more time. Travis Kelce's questionable. We don't know exactly what's going on with him. They haven't said, which would be smart since he's a prominent figure in the NFL and in that Kansas City offense. I think that's it. Judy's questionable. They don't have anything listed for him.
No. And again, like I said, Jared Judy he has second hamstring. I expect him to be out 4 to 6 weeks. He did, I believe, he should be his about 3rd week. So, I expect him to return to the team this week. I don't expect him to play week 2. I expect him probably to return to game probably not until week 3. Now,
Okay.
there's a chance he could play week 2, but he's not going to be himself. But again, they don't want to risk having a setback because then you're going to lose him. And then that's the thing about hamstring injuries is that they're very tricky. And I think nowadays a lot of teams are trying to be very conservative with it because if a player does return a little bit earlier and they have a setback, now they're out for a longer period of time. So the question is, do you want to sit him out for one more week, make sure you get him right, versus losing him for like another 6 type of thing? So I'd be surprised if he plays week 2. I expected more to return possibly week 3, if not definitely week 4.
So I see Von Miller's name on here, but I mean, obviously he's been hurt all off season, right? With the knee, they said Wednesday he is unsure if he's ready to play week 5 when he's first eligible for activation from the publish, according to NFL Network.
Who's this?
With that being said, Miller said that himself Wednesday. Your thoughts on that?
Wait, who's this?
Von Miller. He said he doesn't know that if he's going to be available when he's first eligible in week 5.
Well, the fact that he is saying that himself is not promising. He's coming back from the ACL injury. Again, he's an older athlete. He's more mobile. He's used to kind of being aggressive type of thing. It's not promising. I mean, the fact that you're hearing it from, like I say, you're hearing from the horse's mouth.
Right.
I think that he is telling you that there may not be a chance that he'll be ready once he comes off the PUP list. He may need some more time.
Marlon Humphrey, I guess he's dealing with a foot issue. He had a shot to play, so I'm assuming it's a cortisone shot that he had or something of that nature, right? I mean, he's questionable. With that being said, your thoughts on that? For the Ravens.
Which one? With the Ravens? Oh, that's right.
The Ravens,
he's the DB for the Ravens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if as long as they do the cortisone shot is an anti-inflammatory medication to kind of ease some of the inflammation and ease some of the pain type of thing. If that helps them kind of get over the hump and be able to rehab and be able to play, he should be fine.
Okay. Yeah, those are the big names that I could see that we've covered already. I guess we can go to our the sleeper picks of the week.
Yeah, so that's the one thing we did last year. We started doing kind of like our waiver wire pick or sleeper pick selection for every week. So for obviously today is Tuesday, so everybody's got to put in their waiver selection in their bids, whether it's just do a kind of a salary cap type of thing, or you just kind of put your picks and you're in the waiver order type of thing. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, I would pick any wide receiver from the Rams that's available right now. I know for a fact. What's his name? He tore up Seattle. I wasn't happy about that, but he tore up Seattle this week. What's my man's name for the Rams?
I would say I think you're talking. There's 2 of them. So you're talking about Puka Nacua.
Nacua, yes.
Yeah.
And Atwater. Atwater's another one that I would.
Atwell.
Yeah, Atwell. I'm sorry, Atwell. Yes,
I agree. And I'm going to agree. I completely agree with you 100% on that part. I think they're looking for somebody to replace Cooper Kupp in the meantime. And unfortunately, Van Jefferson had the opportunity a little bit last year when Cooper Kupp went out, and he did not kind of represent in this game 1. Everybody expected for Van Jefferson to be the guy, and it seems like he still did not show up type of thing. So they're looking for somebody else, and I think one of these 2 guys are going to be the thing. And I don't think you can go wrong with either of them. But I think what's his name? Pakua. I'm going to destroy this here right now. Puka Nacua, I think, is probably the key player for right now. If you're going to decide between one of the 2, definitely go for Puka Nacua. If not, put a bid in for Atwell as well. Now, for my end, I'm going to actually stay with the same team. I'm going to go with Williams, the running back. It seems like, I picked up Cam Akers on my fantasy for my draft because I thought everything that would happen last year when Cam Akers came back last year and he killed like the last 4 weeks of the season. I was expecting for McVay to do the same thing, just keep him rolling. And I think everybody also kind of thought the same thing. But all of a sudden you see Williams come in and become a more dominant player, and then he got 2 touchdowns. Cam Akers was able to get 1 type of thing. Now, the only concern about that I have is that they may end up a little bit of a committee. I'm not a big fan of committees, but it seems like Williams is more favorable than Cam Akers, or it may be, hey, they may just be rolling with a hot hand. 1 week maybe Cam Akers, next week might be Williams type of thing. So that part's a little frustrating. The other one that's kind of a little bit interesting is Tyler Algier with the Atlanta Falcons with B.J. Robinson over there. He also got a good amount of the carries. But I think from my understanding, B.J. Robinson is going to probably increase performance or increase his touches type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I think just stick with the Rams players right now because the Rams are trying to figure out who's going to be their go-to guy, both on the running game and the passing game, especially since Cooper Kupp is gone. Stafford's got to throw somebody, so he's got to figure somebody out. And for Cam Akers is no longer the main guy that everybody thought was going to be for this upcoming season. So we'll see what happens.
Well, definitely we'll see what happens. I'm Landon Buford. You can find me at LandonBuford.com, on social media at Landon Buford. Mark, are you going to say where they can find you as well?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Marco Nunez. You can find me on Instagram at Marco A. Nunez ATC. If you guys have any questions regarding injuries, any injuries regarding any players that we've missed or that happens throughout the week, feel free to DM me for any questions. Or if you have any personal injuries or issues regarding rehab, strength and conditioning, therapy, anything like that you might have yourself as being weak and worse, feel free to DM me at my Instagram at Marco A. Nunez 17, and just make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can kind of get any updates when we do post this on YouTube, and make sure you follow both of us.
See y'all next week.
Take care.